25 bizarre 1970s products that turned magic into mayhem. The 1970s were a wild time when we blindly believed every ad that promised life change. Forget the disco floor, let's face the hair that looked like a confused mushroom, the polyester pants that turned you into a slow cooker, or the torture sandals. Today, we're flipping back through some of the most disastrous flops that once promised miracles but delivered pure chaos. Let's see if you were ever a victim of one of these classic fails. Prell Shampoo. This shampoo promised that absolute cleanliness was the path to healthy, shiny hair. Prell Shampoo, that bright, almost radioactive green liquid. When squeezed from the tube or bottle, it resembled thick, gooey sludge. It lathered terribly, creating such a massive mountain of foam that you could use it to wash a station wagon. The advertisements promised incredible body and shine. Its container looked great in the shower caddy, conveying a sense of artificial cleanliness and convenience. But Prell was a green bomb that fried your hair dry. It cleaned so thoroughly that your scalp practically gave up on oil production. Just one wash with Prell, and you were stripped of every trace of natural life in your hair. The squeaky clean feeling after washing sounded good, but it was actually the cry for help from the hair follicles, as they were stripped of all essential oils. The result was dry, static split ends that lasted for days. Your hair would be so dry that when you touched it, it made a small, dry sound, like the crisp sound of failure. At this point, you could slick your hair up, and it would stand straight up as if you'd been electrocuted. Although the bottle looked attractive, your hair would need therapy after just one rinse with Prell. It is proof that sometimes excessive cleanliness is a disaster, turning voluminous hair into an unmanageable dry mess. Dr. Scholl's Sandals. Fashion and comfort couldn't coexist, and the promise of health could come with significant pain. You saw Dr. Scholl's sandals in 17 magazine, heard their distinctive clacking in school hallways, and you begged your mom to buy them. With natural leather and real wooden soles, they conveyed a health-conscious vibe. Buying them meant you were saying, "I care about my arches." They looked elegant and serious, a fashion dream for those pursuing a natural look. They were called Shaw exercise sandals, suggesting that simply walking in them was a form of exercise. But in reality, they were nicknamed luxury torture devices. Their wooden soles had absolutely no flexibility. If you stepped slightly off the edge of the sandal, the pain would shoot straight up your spine. Spraining your ankle was almost mandatory. And don't even think about walking fast. You needed to have your toes clamped shut like a vice grip just to keep them on your feet, turning normal walking into a continuous physical effort. For most of us, they were an injury waiting to happen. You must have been frustrated trying to maintain balance and grace while your toes were frantically clenching, turning you into a clumsy walker instead of a graceful magazine model. The Dorothy Hamill Cut. The Dorothy Hamill Cut was a cultural statement, a symbol of dynamism and victory in the 70s. When figure skater Dorothy Hamill won the gold medal, she spun, she flipped her hair, and she turned her wedge haircut into a national sensation. Suddenly, girls across America lined up at hair salons, carrying a photo of Hamill and having only one request: "Give me the Dorothy." The haircut looked stylish, athletic, and perfect, with cheekbones so sharp they could cut through her disco fog. It promised freedom and effortless style. However, for most people, this haircut was a gold medal mistake. Hamill had an entire team of professional makeup and hairstylists on call to keep every strand perfectly tucked under. But for the average teenager styling it herself in the bathroom mirror, the result was wildly different. That cute wedge shape required constant maintenance, the right head shape, and a blow dryer powerful enough to double as a jet engine to create the necessary volume. Imagine struggling with the blow dryer every morning, trying to achieve the perfect volume. And oh boy, if your hair decided to flip out instead of curling in correctly, you were stuck. You would look like a confused mushroom until it grew out. Brush rollers. Before ceramic curling irons or modern hair straighteners, brush rollers were the path to Farrah Fawcett's voluminous hair. You bought them, hoping to wake up looking gorgeous like a disco star. These were the medieval relics that teenagers voluntarily slept in. The process was simple but horrific. You tightly rolled your hair up, then secured them with sharp metal clips. Although you put all your hope in them, as the saying goes, nothing says good morning like a face full of plastic poking through your pillow. What greeted you in the morning? A sore scalp full of regrets. The result was often no curl at all, or worse, hair that looked like it had been attacked by a sheepdog. Although they promised a natural beauty, you might end up with tangled, uneven hair and a deep sense of disappointment. If you added a hairnet to hold them in place, you looked like you were preparing for bed on the Waltons. But back then, we believed beauty was pain, and we were ready to sacrifice a good night's sleep for an illusionary beauty dream. Sun-In. Wow, Sun-In promised that summer look. Sun-kissed golden locks without damage. Girls everywhere bought Sun-In, chasing sunshine in a bottle. The idea was you just sprayed it on, sat under the sun, and waited for the magic to happen. It sounded perfect for those who wanted the California blonde look without expensive and damaging bleach. Its smell was half lemon cleaner, half peroxide. It should have been a red flag from the start, but we were too desperate for that sun glow. But chemistry had its own plans, especially if you had brown, red, or any color hair that wasn't naturally California blonde. Sun-In created a generation of teenagers with splotchy, streaky orange hair. The hair looked as if it had just been attacked by a citrus press. Instead of brilliant gold, you received a rusty, dull color. It turned your locks into a rusty, dry, crispy mess. Ironically, the bottle forgot to mention it only worked if you actually lived in Malibu and had natural blonde genes. For users, it was a costly failure, forcing them to rush to find darker hair dye to hide their new traffic cone orange color. Jumpsuits. Jumpsuits were the dream of sleekness and style. They were a symbol of confident style with a polished, put-together look achieved with just one zipper. People wore them because they wanted to look fashionable and as if they had sorted out their lives. They represented maximum convenience in fashion that required no mixing and matching of tops and bottoms. The fashion version of a trust fall, where you entrusted your entire dignity to one zipper. But all that illusion of neatness shattered the moment nature called. Going to the bathroom while wearing a jumpsuit, especially in a public restroom, was like escaping an escape room. You would find yourself half undressed, struggling with zippers and snaps, while desperately trying not to let the pant legs touch the public restroom floor. It was a crisis-ridden, undignified balancing act. And if you were tall, the disaster doubled. Most jumpsuits resulted in a permanent wedgie and left cold wrists exposed. Many of us came down to earth with a painful bump when participating in this risky fashion trend. Jumpsuits prove that convenience isn't always comfortable, especially when it conflicts with basic human needs. Clairol Yogurt Shampoo. In the late 1970s, the natural ingredient trend exploded, fueling a desire for cleaner, healthier lifestyles. Clairol decided to join the game with a creamier approach. In 1979, they launched Yogurt Shampoo, based on the idea that if yogurt was good for the body, it must be great for the hair. The product packaging was designed to look natural, with light colors and images of yogurt, making it look more like a snack than a hair care product. And that's where everything went wrong. Consumers were genuinely confused. Clairol went so natural that the product became ambiguous. Some people thought it was real yogurt. Many didn't know whether to pour it on their hair or into a bowl with fruit. There were even reports of people trying to eat it. Imagine opening your refrigerator and having to determine whether this jar was for dessert or for washing your hair. Although Clairol had good intentions, yogurt shampoo was a major marketing failure. The product did not perform exceptionally well, and consumer confusion caused it to be quickly pulled from the shelves. If you've watched a few of our videos and liked them, could you hit the subscribe button? Seeing that small number grow really helps motivate me to keep bringing these memories back and keep this nostalgia community alive. 8-track tape cleaning kits. You know, 8-track tapes were indispensable in cars and at home. This was the era of bulky tapes that often broke or suffered sound degradation after multiple uses. Companies saw a golden opportunity and released 8-track tape cleaning kits. These small kits contained brushes, sponges, sprays, and they promised to improve sound quality, remove dirt, and extend the lifespan of those precious tapes. The promise was simple: keep the tapes clean and they will last longer. However, the reality was that these kits rarely worked as advertised. People quickly realized they were just expensive gimmicks. Some brushes were too rough, the sprays were too sticky, and the sponges often did more harm than good. The harder you tried to clean your favorite Aerosmith recording, the more you accidentally damaged it with the very cleanser meant to protect it. In many cases, the cleaning agents left residue or scratched the delicate parts of the tape, actually accelerating wear and tear instead of preventing it. Demand for 8-track accessories quickly disappeared as the more compact cassette tapes began to dominate the market in the late 70s and early 80s. Qube Interactive TV. Sometimes, the best technology still fails if it is too complex or too expensive for the market's current needs. In 1977, Warner Cable made a bold attempt to revolutionize the way we watch TV with the Qube system. Viewers could press buttons on a special remote control to vote in live polls, choose how programs unfolded, or even influence what music video played next. This was a glimpse into the future, decades before streaming and smart TVs existed. It was so advanced that cable companies still struggle to offer similar features today. Although Qube's technology was cutting edge for its time, it came with a hefty price, both literally and figuratively. The system was expensive to install, often malfunctioned during operation, and frankly was a bit confusing and complicated for the average family who just wanted to relax. Qube launched in a few test markets. While some were fascinated by the possibilities, most found it too complex or unnecessary. High maintenance costs and lack of widespread adoption led to Qube's demise in the early 1980s. TV hat. In an era before smartphones and streaming services, the TV hat attempted to take personal entertainment to a new level. An awkward one. Launched in the late 70s, this bizarre invention combined a baseball cap with a small pouch holding a mini TV screen. The screen hung suspended right in front of your eyes, allowing you to watch your favorite shows hands-free, whether you were relaxing in the park, riding the bus, or even taking a walk. The concept sounded futuristic in theory. In practice, it was anything but cool. The TV hat looked utterly ridiculous, like something out of a low-budget sci-fi movie. Users had to squint at a tiny screen just inches from their face, which often resulted in eye strain and headaches and a rather uncomfortable viewing experience. The screen was low quality, grainy, and hard to see unless the lighting was perfect. Add to that the bulkiness of the hat and the tangled wires running down to the battery pack or portable tuner. You looked silly and embarrassing wearing this bulky hat in public. QT Quick Tanner. QT stood for Quick Tan. This lotion promised a healthy bronze glow without the sun. This was the solution for those who wanted a summer look without facing the risk of sunburn. Advertisements tried to convince consumers that this was a fast and safe way to get a tan look. But QT should have stood for questionable tint. Instead of bronze, it delivered a streaky, splotchy orange color. Specifically, your palms would turn bright orange, a clear sign of failure. The smell? It was like chemical pancake syrup and lingered for days, making you feel like you were walking around in an artificial pancake factory. If you applied too little, you'd miss spots. Apply too much, you looked like you had just rolled in BBQ sauce. And once it stained your knees or elbows, you couldn't scrub it off, leaving embarrassing patches of dark orange. Although modern self-tanning products are much more developed, QT was the predecessor, and it was a chaotic start that made many people regret their decision to chase a quick tan. Sauna hot pants. Hot pants, short shorts, were already a hot trend in the 1970s, but someone had the crazy idea to push this trend further and inflate them. Sauna hot pants were a bizarre combination of fashion and wishful thinking. These inflatable puffy shorts promised a miracle, melting away stubborn fat on the abdomen, hips, and thighs without dieting or exercising. The theory was that by retaining heat and making you sweat, the pants would target problem areas. You were advised to wear them while lying down watching TV, hoping to see your body shrink in just a few days. It sounded too good to be true, and it was. Although some companies jumped on the trend, they all failed miserably. Consumers quickly realized that heavy sweating didn't equate to actual fat loss. Wearing these inflatable shorts was both uncomfortable and useless. They looked like inflatable floaties for your thighs. And if you were a man, you probably also worried about whether something else you wanted to keep was also disappearing. Sauna hot pants are a humorous footnote in the history of bizarre weight loss gimmicks, proving that there are no shortcuts to staying fit. Downy Flake Toaster Eggs. In 1972, Downy Flake, a company famous for frozen breakfast items, decided to reinvent breakfast. Building on the success of quick, convenient items like Pop-Tarts, they introduced toaster eggs. The idea, a frozen egg patty that could be toasted in the toaster and ready to eat in minutes. It sounded like a convenient, quick solution for a hot breakfast. In reality, these things looked more like hockey pucks than food. They were too round, thick, and strangely dense, completely unappetizing. Consumers were wary of pre-cooked eggs from the start, and putting them through a toaster only made things weirder. Toaster eggs failed to score points on flavor, texture, or appearance. Imagine the feeling of biting into a slightly toasted frozen egg patty with its tough and dry texture. It was a bold experiment, but proved that breakfast innovation needs more than just convenience. It needs flavor and familiarity. Sales quickly plummeted, and just 3 years later, in 1975, they were pulled from the shelves, disappearing as quickly as they appeared. Sansui Quadraphonic sound. In the early 1970s, home audio was a big deal, and while most people still used basic two-speaker setups, Sansui had a vision for more immersive sound. Sansui's 4-channel quadraphonic sound system promised to revolutionize music listening by providing sound from the front, back, left, and right. This was a completely new experience compared to traditional stereo sound. Other audio companies also joined in, even having setups that came with joystick controls, allowing users to control the sound around the room. Major artists like Aerosmith and Eric Clapton released special albums mixed for this 4-channel format. Although the technology was interesting and groundbreaking, it came with a huge barrier called cost. The system cost $200 at the time, which equates to about $1,200 today, adjusted for inflation. The biggest problem was that the average consumer was unwilling to upgrade their entire setup, including the receiver, discs, and 2 additional speakers just for a new sound experience. Adoption was slow, although today's digital technologies have achieved similar goals. By 1978, the 4-channel audio dream quietly faded as the music industry shifted toward digital recording. Out of the list above, which item impressed you the most? Share your biggest 70s fashion or beauty fail in the comments below. Polyester leisure suits. Leisure suits were a style icon of the 70s, especially for men. They had all the trendy elements, wide lapels, matching jackets and trousers, and vibrant, shiny colors that said, "I'm here to party in a sauna." They were made from 100% polyester, a material that looked sleek and promised effortless elegance for every occasion, from the bar to the disco floor. Before long, they were quickly nicknamed the sauna of style. Wearing them was like draping yourself in a plastic bag. Polyester, despite its glossiness, was completely non-breathable. You would sweat just by looking at them. And if you dared to dance under the hot disco lights, you were essentially wearing a slow cooker, accumulating unbearable heat. They came in colors ranging from baby blue to burnt orange and were shiny enough to reflect the disco ball, but their thickness blocked every breeze. They were non-breathable, immobile, and literally the wearer couldn't move comfortably due to the rising temperature. AMC Pacer. When the AMC Pacer hit the market in 1975, it was advertised as the car of the future. With large curved windows and a rounded, bubble-like body, it looked unlike any other car on the road. AMC wanted to create a car that was compact yet spacious inside, feeling like a large vehicle. People quickly nicknamed it the fishbowl on wheels. This unique design came with many burdens. The Pacer was too heavy, especially for a compact car, making it sluggish and fuel inefficient. This was anathema during the fuel crisis of the 70s. The rounded, futuristic shape didn't appeal to everyone. Many just found it odd. Although the spacious interior was impressive and it gained a small fan base, especially after appearing in the movie Wayne's World, it wasn't enough to save its sales and poor performance. The Pacer struggled with sales, and production stopped in 1980. It was a bold experiment in car design, a car that dared to be different but failed to deliver on its promises of efficiency and widespread acceptance. Smell-O-Vision revivals. The idea of Smell-O-Vision always sounded like something out of a science fiction movie. After its first appearance in the 60s, the 1970s saw bizarre attempts to revive this technology. The goal was to create a fully immersive movie-watching experience by pumping scents into movie theaters or even homes to match what was happening on screen. Imagine the smell of popcorn during a concession scene or the scent of sea breeze during a beach scene. It sounded wonderful, but in reality, the technology was unreliable. Smells often arrived too early, too late, or not at all. Worse, once the smells were released, they lingered and didn't dissipate. Imagine sitting through a dramatic romantic scene while the room still reeked of chili dogs from 2 scenes earlier. Audiences were more distracted than entertained, and theater owners were less than thrilled about installing complex equipment that didn't work well. Smell-O-Vision quickly faded by the late 70s, proving that people still preferred watching stories unfold with their eyes and ears rather than their nose, avoiding the risk of old food smells ruining a climax. World Football League, WFL. In 1974, the World Football League stepped onto the field as a bold competitor, aiming to challenge and even replace the National Football League. With big dreams and even bigger promises, the WFL aimed to build an international football empire. The league launched with 13 teams spread across the United States, including a team in Honolulu, Hawaii. But things quickly fell apart. Despite the name World Football League, it never expanded outside U.S. borders. The league suffered from poor attendance, running out of money, and many players not being paid on time. Even the star athletes lured away from the NFL by huge contracts were trapped in a financial mess. The WFL barely completed its first season in 1974. The second season in 1975 was cut short when the league collapsed mid-season. The dream of global football dominance crumbled in less than 2 years, proving that ambition doesn't always equal success. Bell Picturephone. Back in the 1960s, Bell Telephone dreamed of the future of communication. At the 1964 World's Fair, they debuted the Model 1 Picturephone, a concept that allowed you to see the person you were talking to. The concept felt like something out of science fiction, a glimpse of the video calls we see today. By 1970, Bell launched the first commercial version of the Picturephone. However, the only and fatal issue was the cost. It came with an astronomical price tag. You had to pay $160 per month, and that wasn't including the per-minute calling charges. After adjusting for inflation, that figure is over $1,200 today, even if you didn't make any calls. Imagine, a huge living expense just for the ability to see the caller. Furthermore, it was only designed for one-on-one conversations with no group chat or very limited conferencing. With its prohibitive cost and limited features, the Picturephone failed quickly. Although Bell attempted to release Model 2 in targeted businesses, neither version succeeded. Betamax. When Sony launched Betamax in 1975, they seemed like the winner. It was one of the first home video formats and offered superior image and sound resolution, much better than the bulky VHS tape. In fact, the quality was so good that broadcasters and production studios continued to use Betamax tapes for professional work well into the 2000s. But despite the excellent technology, Sony made one fatal mistake. They kept it to themselves. Sony refused to license the Betamax format to other electronics companies. That meant fewer Betamax manufacturers and fewer movie titles released in that format. Just 1 year later, in 1976, JVC introduced VHS. Although the quality wasn't as sharp, JVC was more flexible. They licensed VHS to any company that wanted to participate. The result? Betamax's dominance vanished almost overnight. Its market share dropped from 100% in 1975 to just 10% by 1988. Betamax lost the format war, not because it was technologically inferior, but because it chose the closed path. Polaroid Polavision. Polaroid was once the king of instant photography in the 70s, with cameras like the SX70 and One Step beloved everywhere. Capitalizing on that success, Polaroid decided to jump into the world of home movies in 1977, hoping to compete with Kodak. They introduced the Polavision system, which used a unique film cartridge resembling a mini video cassette. After shooting, you could develop the footage within minutes using a special tabletop viewer device. Despite the unique technology, the system failed. The image quality was weak and faded. You had to shoot in super bright light, or the results would be dark and blurry. The colors were dull, not vibrant as advertised. Most importantly, unlike Kodak's Super 8 cameras, Polavision could not record sound. For home movies, sound was a critical factor for preserving memories, and this lack of flexibility was a major deal-breaker. Sales never picked up, and Polaroid retreated in 1979. Today, you can find Polavision equipment on eBay for next to nothing. Which of these products do you think was truly ahead of its time, even though it failed? Let this nostalgia community be the place where we keep these great memories alive together. IDS diet candy. Yes, the product was called AIDS. These small, block-shaped candies with a mysterious chocolate flavor were packaged in luxurious boxes and promised to curb your appetite with a scientifically sounding ingredient. You were instructed to take one piece before a meal with a cup of hot water, and then somehow forget about dinner. This was an attempt to turn dieting into a snack, a novelty at the time. In reality, it tasted like old Tootsie Rolls dipped in perfume. If you managed to endure swallowing one, you might eat a slightly smaller dinner, or simply have lost your appetite entirely because of the awful flavor. The biggest issue, of course, was that the unfortunate name has not aged well over time. When the AIDS pandemic broke out in the 1980s, the brand faced a problem no marketing team could fix. It quickly disappeared from the market, becoming one of the most unfortunate and tragically named products of all time. Swing bike. In 1975, the swing bike emerged as a novelty run. It wasn't your ordinary bicycle. Designed and patented by Ralph Belden, this bike had two steering points, one at the front and one at the rear below the saddle. This allowed you to steer both wheels independently, creating quirky S-shaped turns. This bike was for impressing, demonstrating, not for regular commuting like a circus performance. Although it looked cool, it was not easy to control. The dual steering system made the bike extremely unstable for beginners, and very many riders ended up falling or wiping out. This unpredictability and risk of injury meant it never gained widespread adoption. Imagine trying to perform a majestic S-swerve, but ending up hitting the ground face first. The inherent instability of the swing bike turned it from an attention-grabbing toy into a playground hazard. Ford Pinto. The Ford Pinto launched in 1971, just as the US was dealing with the oil crisis. With a cheap price, lightweight, and fuel-efficient, the Pinto was marketed as the perfect solution for cost-conscious drivers. Ford viewed the Pinto as the savior of the 70s. Behind that affordable price was a deadly design flaw. The Pinto's fuel tank was placed in a vulnerable position at the rear of the car. In low-speed rear-end collisions, it had a tendency to rupture and explode. The most shocking part was that internal Ford documents later revealed that the company knew about this danger but made a cold calculation. They concluded that the cost of paying legal compensation for deaths and injuries would be less expensive than fixing the design flaw on millions of cars. When the truth was exposed, the public was outraged. The Pinto quickly became a symbol of corporate negligence. Consumer trust plummeted, and this scandal was one of the biggest PR disasters of the decade, making it one of the most notorious failures. LaserDisc. LaserDisc, launched in 1978, was a bold step in home entertainment. It was a large, shiny disc looking like a giant CD. LaserDisc promised to deliver a futuristic movie viewing experience, offering sharper video and clearer audio than the bulky VHS tapes most people were using. Its technical quality was superior to its main competitor. Despite the technical advantages, LaserDisc had two major drawbacks that caused it to fail in the mass market. First and most importantly, you could not record on LaserDisc. In a decade where VCRs were becoming common, the ability to record TV shows was an essential feature that LaserDisc could not meet. LaserDiscs were strictly for playback purposes, lacking flexibility. Second, both the players and the discs were much more expensive than VHS, making it difficult for the average consumer to accept. Although movie enthusiasts loved it for its quality and early access to specification risks, additionally, other factors like blankets, decorations around the crib, and even infant sleeping positions have been completely updated to minimize the risk of sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. Do you think this video needs improvement? Hit like and leave a comment. We're always working to get better. Do you remember any other memorable failures we missed in this list of items? Drop them in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this journey down memory lane, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to Back to Yesterday so we can keep these amazing memories alive together.